Okay, guys. Today we're going to talk about stretching and mobility work in jiu-jitsu. So, I'm not a massive believer in extreme flexibility as being absolutely vital or important in jiu-jitsu. Uh, I consider it far more important to have like mobility or freedom of movement in what you're doing. So, what I mean by that is it's not necessarily about your ability to bend and contort into all sorts of weird positions, to be able to stretch to an extreme degree, but more than that, it's about having like freedom of movement in your joints. So if you can, like force your head onto your knee or your toes, that's one thing. But if you can't do that smoothly and easily, it's going to, there's going to be tightness in your back and your hamstrings. And I've definitely forced stretching in the past, and I've suffer the long-term consequences of that. So what I'd say is stretching or static stretching is one thing, but for me what I focus on is making sure I have freedom of movement in my joints. So this is about loosening the muscles that that hold a joint stable, hold a joint in place. It's all well and good having strong shoulder muscles to keep the ball and socket joint in place, or a strong spine, but if that spine or that shoulder is like ramrolled stiff, then what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to move easily, and this is also going to lead to injuries and muscle imbalances and generally a massive pain in the ass. So lots of different ways around this. One of the easiest things you can do is like start from the top, work your way down. I'm not going to show everything that I do, all the options out there. I'll definitely show you the kind of things that I do every day. So, as a general rule, now I'm going to start just by moving my neck, because when people are trying to strangle you or break bits off you, neck is one of the first things they go for, and it can be really painful. I've had instances where I can't turn my head one way or the other. So what we're looking for really is just to get some movement into the joints, and I'm not trying to force things here. You get guys who are going to do like isometric stretching where you're trying to push here, get the extreme range of movement here, and push into your hand, and you're going to get an increase in range of motion that way. But a lot of mobility is around how your nervous system reacts to the movement. If it is a comfortable movement for you, if your nervous system is used to being in that position, your muscles aren't going to tense up in the same way. It's like when you have an injury, your muscle is going to lock down tight to try and protect that joint. So a lot of it's about trying to relax the muscle, try and get yourself comfortable and familiar in that position. So here, I'm not going to force it to beyond the point that's comfortable. I'm just going to start moving. And it's just kind of a point where it's a little bit less than comfortable. It's not like painful. You definitely don't want to go into pain. A little bit of discomfort is one thing, but we're not talking about you having to grit your teeth through this, right? It's more like gently polishing like some wood or whatever. So you can do the same thing with your shoulders here. You can roll. You can get both involved here. Or you can do a bigger movement here. Yeah, same with the elbows, wrists, even your little fingers here. Yeah, and again, I'm mostly doing like isolated exercises to start with here. Right. I'm going to move on to the feet here. So feet, you can do the same thing, rolling your ankles. You can even do your toes here. Knees obviously, and then the hip joint, which is a nice one to do here. So toes back and forwards, ankles, knees, hip, yeah, all sorts of fun stuff, right? And honestly, I do that most mornings just because my body is pretty beat up, pretty stiff. But now we get to the fun stuff. So for me, the most important part is to stretch or look for that mobility. My screen just went blank. It's going to be in your hips and your spine. So much of that is what gets stressed, and everything, all your movement runs through your spine, through your hips. Like, these are so important in terms of your posture, and in jiu-jitsu, especially when you're spending a lot of time hunched over it, in defensive postures here, very important to get that mobility. It's going to affect you a lot in your daily life if you don't, and especially if you're sitting in front of a computer all day. Very important to work all of this sort of stuff. So yes, this is a supremely odd one to be doing, but here a lot of just hip tilting, pelvic tilting, very important. Here you can exaggerate it, but again, I don't like to force it too much. And then in the spine as well, I tend to keep some 2 dimensions for now, or 1 dimension, just up and down. And you can either look to articulate back up here, which is a fun one here, so all the way down, relax, and then lead with the head to try and get more of a turn in, or the fun one I've been playing with recently is going all the way down, relaxing in here, and then keeping the head down, trying to curl back up from the pelvis. Right. And then we have like rotational movements here in the spine. So a lot of the time I'm going to do this kneeling down instead of standing, which is what I usually do, but I'm going to disappear off the screen otherwise. A lot of just gentle, just kind of here just to move and get a bit of mobility in the spine. You can see I'm pretty tight in my lower back here. And these are good old traditional martial arts exercises that will help you loosen up. I prefer these dynamic exercises because a lot of the static stuff is not very applicable to the kind of training I end up doing. I'm also going to chuck in a bonus little thing on what I do for my hips. Right, so your hips are super important here. Jiu-jitsu is all about the hips. So a lot of what you can do that's really good is working from this deep squat position here. Right, and what I'm looking to do is to keep my lower back especially as straight as possible here. So you need to be able to relax into this and try not to arch. If you're sitting all the way over, hunched over here, then what's happening is your hips, your pelvis are tilting in this way, rounding your spine. What you want is to be able to relax into that. Right. The more freedom you have in your hips, the easier this is going to be. So the best way to work on this is just sit in here and trying to keep this nice and tight and try and relax into it. Right, so you're trying to just drop your butt to the ground and you can start rocking back and forwards. Knee surgery has limited my ability to move here, but I also used to do these little figure of eights, and yeah, I can just about do that now. If I scream and fall over, it's because this is putting a little bit of pressure on my knee, but again, I'm not trying to push too far. I'm not trying to go beyond what's comfortable. I'm trying to move just at the edge of what I can do. Right, so from the side, what I'm looking at here is a little bit of back and forwards here, trying to free that up, and I'm feeling it here in my hip flexors and my glutes. I'm not trying to tighten up, not trying to force the movement. That's a very important part of what we're doing here. So this is my basis for mobility here. Then I might start looking to stretch up here, start reaching up in the sky. This is going to start working your rib cage as well. You're going to start getting that rotation. Here, this is a big one for me. Here, I really like this one. Yeah, and then start getting into tilting your hips in. Now I'm really feeling it in my hips here. This is super interesting. This is where a lot of the muscles in your leg and your back, or in your chest, in your abs, and your adductors connect. So much of your movement runs through your hips, right? And if you're having lower back pains, right, a lot of postural issues come from tightness through the hip. I've basically been chasing the same set of injuries up and down my body, and it's only recently I started putting two and two together and realising that this is from a lot of tightness in my hips. Well, the tightness kind of gathered in my hips. So I'm just trying to keep this knee upright, dropping my other knee to the ground, and again, trying to relax into as much as possible here. I can go the other way, trying to open outwards here. And now we can start building up, dropping this knee to the ground here, and sitting down, opening the knee out to the side here. And again, I'm having to hunch over and force it, I'm not doing it right. Here I'm going to use my hands to help, but if you're starting to get not just flexible, but mobile and able to move well, you might be able to do this without using your hands. Oh, just about got it there. But again, we're not trying to force it, and since I'm on the back of knee surgery, I'm going to use my hands. Right, so it's not cheating, it's just extending the range of what's comfortable here. So these movements are very, very important. Very, very important to stay healthy and not injured. Yeah, I mean, you can play around. I often do inverted movements as well, just trying to hang out and upside down or whatever. So another thing I would say is that, so that's pretty much everything I do. The other things I would say is that in terms of actual flexibility or stretching to relax your muscles, the most important thing would be to stretch. Do these kind of stretches here, again to counteract the fact that we are mostly bent over in a hunch position a lot of the time. So things like upwards dog or whatever, anything stretching quads, the hip flexors, right? Hip flexors for me especially are very, very tight. Quads especially, all this sort of stuff here. And your lower abs here. Pectorals as well. A lot of guys are going to see stretching out this way here. Honestly, the most important stretching routine is one that you actually do, right? So there are way more specific stretches that hit all sorts of minor things. And I've had those programs before, and guess what? I don't end up doing them. So I have a relatively simple, like stretching, mobility, call it what you want, series. And I do that because I can make myself do that every day. So if you want to go in more detail, let me know, but as it is, this is a relatively straightforward way of doing it. Peace out, guys.